The truth came like lightning across the galaxy when cyber warfare specialist Tae-Ho Shin broke through the Federation's quantum communication network. Sitting in his hidden base on Europa, surrounded by computers that existed in 17 dimensions, at once he worked for 72 hours straight to crack codes that had protected Federation secrets for 50,000 years. When the breakthrough came, it was bigger than anyone had imagined. "I'm in," he whispered to his exhausted team. "I have access to everything: historical records, government communications, military plans, all of it." What Tae-Ho found in the Federation's deepest files changed everything. The elder species had not just been controlling younger civilizations for thousands of years. They had been deliberately causing wars, famines, and disasters to keep other species weak and dependent. The hydral ocean plague that killed millions, caused by Federation bioweapons, the Rockkin asteroid impacts that destroyed their colonies, guided by Federation gravity manipulators, the Veltari crystal shortage that crashed their economy, created by Federation mining operations that stole their resources. Every tragedy, every disaster, every war, Tae-Ho said as he compiled the evidence, they either caused it directly or made sure it happened at the right time to serve their purposes. But the worst discovery was yet to come. Deep in the classified files was a document called the Final Protocol. It detailed the Federation's plan to systematically exterminate any species that showed signs of becoming too independent or too powerful. Humanity was not the first species to be marked for extinction. Over the millennia, dozens of promising civilizations had been quietly destroyed when they became threats to the elder race's power. The Federation had perfected the art of genocide while maintaining their image as peaceful guardians of galactic civilization. "We have to show this to everyone," Tae-Ho's assistant, Dr. Mi-Young Choi, said as she read the horrifying documents. "The whole galaxy needs to know what these monsters have been doing, not just show them," Tae-Ho replied grimly. "Broadcast it everywhere at once. Make it impossible for the Federation to suppress or deny." The broadcast went out on every communication channel in the galaxy simultaneously. Federation sensors tried to block it, but human quantum technology was too advanced. The signal appeared on government networks, military communications, civilian entertainment systems, and even personal devices. Ambassador Yoon Young Park, now serving as humanity's chief diplomatic officer, provided narration for the evidence, as it was revealed to billions of alien minds across the galaxy. "Citizens of the galaxy," her voice said calmly, as images of Federation atrocities filled screens everywhere. "You have been lied to for thousands of years. The Federation is not your protector, it is your prison warden." The reaction was immediate and explosive. On the hydral homeworld of Aquatica, crowds of angry aquatic beings surrounded Federation government buildings, demanding answers about the plague that had killed their loved ones. On Rockin Prime, stone-bodied miners threw their Federation overseers into the volcanic pits where so many of their people had died. Even loyal Federation species were horrified by the revelations. The crystalline Veltari had prided themselves on being partners in galactic governance, only to discover they were just better treated slaves. Within hours of the broadcast, rebellions erupted across Federation space. Communication networks crashed, as angry citizens overwhelmed government channels with demands for answers. Military units began refusing orders as soldiers learned that their own commanders had been complicit in genocide. The Federation's leadership gathered in emergency session on Centris Prime, watched their empire crumble in real time. 50,000 years of careful work, hissed Elder Vexthul of the Ancient Collective, destroyed by these primitive apes with their chaos technology. "The humans must be eliminated immediately," demanded War Master Gixthul, his reptilian form trembling with rage. Before the rebellion spread further. But it was already too late. The revelations had awakened something in the galactic population that the Federation could not control. Hope. For the first time in millennia, ordinary beings believed they could fight back against their oppressors and win. President Hai Min Kwan, monitoring the galactic chaos from her command center on Earth, opened communication channels to rebel leaders across the galaxy. Her message was simple and powerful. "The Federation calls us dangerous," she said. "They are right. We are dangerous to tyrants, dangerous to oppression, dangerous to anyone who would cage the stars themselves. Join us, and help us build a galaxy where freedom is not a crime." The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of species, from the smallest asteroid miners to entire planetary governments, declared their independence from Federation rule and requested human assistance. Grand Admiral Yonsu Bayek, who had spent 3 years building humanity's secret fleets, finally revealed the true extent of human military preparation. Ghost ships appeared in dozens of systems simultaneously, not to attack, but to deliver supplies and weapons to rebel forces. "We come not as conquerors, but as liberators," Admiral Yeonsu announced as her fleets took position around strategic Federation strongholds. "Any Federation forces that surrender peacefully will be treated with honor. Those who continue to support genocide will face the consequences." The Federation's military response was swift but panicked. Elder Council fleets attacked rebel worlds with desperate fury, trying to crush the uprising before it could spread further. But they discovered that human training and human weapons had transformed the galaxy's oppressed peoples into effective fighters. The Battle of Centrus Prime lasted for 3 days and marked the end of the old galactic order. Federation loyalist fleets surrounded their own capital world, preparing to destroy it rather than let it fall to the rebels. They were met by the largest fleet in galactic history, humans fighting alongside dozens of species who had finally chosen freedom over security. Captain Ye Jin, now promoted to admiral after her heroic defense of New Seoul, led the final assault on the Federation's seat of power. Her ships used quantum uncertainty weapons to phase through the planet's defenses, while rebel fleets attacked from every direction at once. "This ends today," she announced to the Federation leadership as human troops teleported directly into their council chambers. "You can surrender and face trial for your crimes, or you can die as the tyrants you've always been." Most of the elder species chose surrender, though a few die-hard fanatics triggered suicide devices rather than face justice. The ancient halls of power that had ruled the galaxy for 50 millennia fell silent for the first time in recorded history. The war's end came not with a final battle, but with a simple announcement broadcast across the galaxy. President Heyman, standing in the same chamber where humanity had once been put on trial, spoke words that would echo through history. "The Federation is dissolved. In its place, we establish the Free Species Alliance, dedicated to the principle that every intelligent being has the right to determine their own destiny. There will be no more elder races, no more subject peoples, no more cages for the children of the stars." The transformation of galactic society took years, but the foundation was laid in those first days after the Federation's fall. The Alliance was built on human principles: individual freedom, voluntary cooperation, and the right of every species to develop according to their own nature. Some species chose to join the Alliance immediately. Others preferred independence but maintained friendly relations. A few, mostly the elder races who had lost their privileged positions, retreated to isolated worlds where they could dream of their lost empire. Captain Dae-ho Kim, now an old man, of 85, stood once again in the Great Hall of New Geneva Station. But this time the chamber was filled with representatives who had come to participate in galactic government, not to judge troublesome species. His granddaughter, Lieutenant Min-jung Kim, now a captain herself, joined him at the viewing port, where they could see ships from hundreds of species docking peacefully together. "Do you ever regret how it all turned out?" she asked. Dae-ho smiled, watching a human transport ship dock next to a hydro water vessel, while a rock and mining ship waited patiently in line behind them. "The Federation exiled us because they said we were too dangerous for civilized society," he replied. "They were right about one thing. We were dangerous, but dangerous to whom? To beings who wanted to live in peace and trade freely, or to those who built their power on the suffering of others?" He turned to look at his granddaughter, and in his eyes she saw the same determination that had carried humanity through its darkest hours. "They wanted to know what humans looked like when we were truly free," he continued. "Now the whole galaxy knows. We look like the people who tear down cages and build bridges instead." In the distance, the lights of the Free Species Alliance fleet moved through space like a constellation of hope. Each ship carried beings who had once lived under the Federation's thumb, now free to explore the stars and build the future they chose. The galaxy had exiled humanity for being too wild, too free, too dangerous to control. In the end, that wildness had given the galaxy something it had not known for 50,000 years: genuine freedom. The stars belonged to everyone now, and no one would ever cage them again. The attack on Vega Prime came without warning on a quiet Tuesday morning when the Federation's largest shipyard was humming with peaceful activity. Workers from a dozen species moved between the massive construction frames where new battleships took shape, completely unaware that death was watching them from empty space. Admiral Ji-Hoon Lee stood on the bridge of the human flagship Defiance, his face calm as he watched the final preparations. Around him, the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled hung invisible in quantum uncertainty, waiting for his order. "All ghost ships report ready," announced his communications officer, Lieutenant Commander Sora Kim. "Entropy weapons charged and targeted," added Weapons Officer Tae-Jin Park. Ji-Hoon nodded and opened a channel to the entire human fleet. 200 ships hung in space around him, each one crewed by men and women who had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. "Today we announced to the galaxy that humanity has returned," he said simply. "Remember, we target military assets only. No civilian casualties, no unnecessary destruction. We are not here to become monsters. We are here to show the universe that monsters can be stopped." The battle lasted exactly 18 minutes. Human ships appeared from nowhere, their entropy weapons tearing through Federation shields as if they were made of paper. The massive shipyard that had taken 50 years to build was reduced to scrap metal and drifting debris. But Ji-Hoon's fleet didn't stop there. They captured 3 of the Federation's newest battleships intact, using quantum teleportation technology to beam out their crews and take control of the vessels. Within an hour, human engineers were studying alien technology that had been kept secret for centuries. The Federation's response was swift and desperate. War Master Gixthal of the Saurian Empire, the Federation's most experienced military leader, was given command of the largest fleet in galactic history. Over 10,000 ships from dozens of species were gathered to hunt down and destroy the human raiders. But when Gixthal arrived at Vega Prime, he found only empty space and floating wreckage. The human fleet had vanished as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving no trace of where they had gone or how they had escaped. "Impossible," Gixthal hissed through his scaled lips. "No fleet can move that fast. No technology can hide that many ships." His intelligence officers had no answers. According to every sensor reading, the human ships had simply ceased to exist. It was as if they had been erased from reality itself. While Gixthal searched empty space for an enemy that was no longer there, Fleet Commander Sujin Kang was leading the second wave of humanity's return. Her task force struck 17 different systems in a single day, hitting Federation military bases and supply depots with surgical precision. Each attack followed the same pattern. Human ships would appear without warning, destroy their targets with impossible weapons, and vanish before help could arrive. No Federation ship ever got close enough to fight back. No human ship was ever detected before it chose to attack. "It's like fighting ghosts," reported one Kethnari captain whose base had been destroyed while he watched helplessly from orbit. "They come from nowhere and return to nowhere. How do you fight an enemy you cannot find?" The Federation's military leaders gathered in emergency session on the capital world of Centris Prime. The Great Council chamber was filled with angry voices speaking in dozens of languages as species blamed each other for the disasters. "Humans have made fools of us all," declared Admiral Vexthak of the Ethereal Fleet. "Our intelligence said they were trapped in their home system. Our sensors said no ships could escape. Our experts said human technology was inferior. All our intelligence was wrong," admitted General Zixmar of the insectoid hives. "These are not the same humans we exiled 3 years ago. They have become something new." War Master Gixthal, still smarting from his failure at Vega Prime, pounded his fist on the council table. "Then we adapt. We change our tactics. We hunt. them down and destroy them before they can strike again. But adapting was easier said than done. The Federation military had been built to fight predictable enemies who followed galactic rules of warfare. Human tactics made no sense to alien minds. Human technology seemed to break the laws of physics. Human strategies appeared to be based on controlled chaos rather than careful planning. Dr. Changmin's son, watching from his hidden laboratory on Earth, smiled as he read intercepted Federation communications. His psychological warfare programs were working better than he had hoped. "They're starting to panic," he reported to Admiral Sujin Park. "Their military commanders can't understand how we think, so they can't predict what we'll do next." "Good," Sujin replied. "Fear makes people make mistakes. And the Federation has been making mistakes for 3 years now." The biggest mistake had been underestimating Captain Ye Jin-O and her defense of the human colony New Sol. When Federation intelligence finally located a human settlement, they sent a massive fleet to destroy it as an example to other rebels. New Sol was a mining colony on a barren moon, home to 50,000 humans who had refused to evacuate during the original exile. Ye Jin commanded its small defense force, 12 ships against a Federation armada of over 300 vessels. The odds were impossible, but Ye Jin had spent 3 years studying the new human way of war. She didn't try to fight the Federation fleet directly. Instead, she used the moon's gravity well and asteroid field to create a maze of obstacles that larger ships couldn't navigate. "They think like a formation," she told her captains as the enemy fleet approached. "We think like individuals. Use that." The battle that followed would be studied in military academies for generations. Ye Jin's ships moved through the asteroid field like dancers, appearing and disappearing among the rocks while striking at the Federation fleet with quantum uncertainty weapons. The aliens tried to use their numerical advantage, but their own size worked against them in the cramped space around the moon. Large battleships collided with asteroids while trying to target smaller human vessels. Coordinated formations broke apart as ships tried to avoid debris and friendly fire. After 6 hours of fighting, the Federation fleet was forced to retreat. They had lost over 100 ships while destroying only 2 human vessels. News of the victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire, inspiring rebellions on dozens of worlds. But the most important result of New Sol was psychological. For 3 years, the Federation had told itself that humans were just advanced barbarians with lucky technology. The defense of New Sol proved that humans had become something far more dangerous. They had learned to weaponize their own unpredictability. Tactical coordinator In-Soo Kim, who had helped plan the colony's defense, explained it in his report. To Earth Command. "Other species fight to avoid losing. We fight to win. They try to minimize risk. We accept risk as the price of victory. They want to control every variable. We use chaos as a weapon." The Federation's response to New Sol was to declare total war on humanity. Every human found outside the Sol system would be killed on sight. Any species that helped humans would face immediate retaliation. The elder races were prepared to turn the galaxy into a wasteland rather than lose their control. But it was too late for such measures. 3 years of human sabotage and support for rebel movements had created a network of resistance that stretched across Federation space. When the order came to kill all humans, dozens of species refused to obey. The Hydrals publicly announced that they would grant sanctuary to any human who reached their worlds. The Rockan declared their independence and invited human engineers to help them build their own fleets. Even some Kethnari colonies rebelled against their government's orders. President Haimin Kwan, receiving reports of the spreading chaos from her command center deep beneath the Swiss Alps, realized that humanity had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. "We've done more than survive," she told her cabinet. "We've started a revolution." Admiral Daeho, now in his 70s but still sharp as a blade, nodded in agreement. The Federation kept the peace by making everyone afraid of each other. Now, they're all afraid of the Federation instead. "What's our next move?" asked Admiral Sujin. Daeho smiled, and it was the smile of a predator that had cornered its prey. "Now we show the galaxy what humans can really do when we stop holding back." The war that had begun with the exile of humanity was about to enter its final phase. The Federation had wanted to remove a problem species from their perfect order. Instead, they had created an enemy that fought like no one else in the galaxy. Soon they would learn that some enemies are more dangerous when you make them desperate. And humanity, after 3 years of exile and preparation, was about to show the galaxy just how dangerous desperate humans could be. The reckoning had come at last. Commander Miran Kim floated in the command chair of her stealth ship, watching stars that no human had seen for 2 years. The ship itself was invisible to every sensor the Federation used, existing in a state of quantum uncertainty that made it impossible to detect. Around her, 12 other ghost ships hung in empty space like deadly shadows. "Target confirmed," whispered her navigator, Lieutenant Seo Jun Park. "Federation supply convoy, 3 cargo ships and 2 escorts." Miran studied the holographic display. The alien ships moved slowly through space, completely unaware that 13 human vessels watched their every move. It was the 5th convoy her fleet had found this month, carrying weapons and supplies to Federation bases near human space. "Remember the rules," Miran said to her captains through the quantum communication system. "No survivors, no evidence, no traces. Make it look like an accident." The attack lasted exactly 90 seconds. Human ships appeared from nowhere, struck like lightning, and vanished before the escort vessels could even raise their shields. To any investigation, it would look like the convoy had suffered catastrophic engine failure in all 5 ships at the same time. It was impossible, but impossible things had been happening a lot lately in Federation space. 3 star systems away, Intelligence Officer Woo Jin Park was discovering just how much damage 2 years of exile had done to the galaxy's stability. He sat in a hidden base built inside a hollow asteroid, reading reports from across Federation territory. The news was worse than anyone had expected. Without human protection, dozens of younger species had fallen victim to exploitation by the older, more powerful races. The aquatic hydrils were being forced to give up their ocean worlds to make room for Kethnari mining operations. The silicon-based Rakan found their homeworlds stripped of valuable minerals, while they were powerless to stop it. "The Federation is falling apart," Wu Jin reported to his superiors on Earth. "They kept the peace by making humans the common enemy. Now that we're gone, they're turning on each other." But the most interesting information came from deep within Federation government files that had been stolen by human agents. The Elder Council was not just concerned about minor rebellions. They were terrified that other species might follow humanity's example and fight for their freedom. "They're planning something called the Final Solution," Wu Jin continued in his report. "I don't have all the details, but it involves permanently eliminating the human threat." The report reached Earth just as sabotage specialist Kyung-ho Nam was planning his next mission. For 6 months he had been leading teams that made Federation operations mysteriously fail across dozens of systems. Supply lines broke down, communication networks crashed, mining equipment malfunctioned in ways that looked completely natural. "They still don't know it's us," Kyung-ho told his team as they prepared to infiltrate a Federation weapons factory. "They think it's just bad luck and equipment failure." The factory was on a moon orbiting a gas giant, protected by sensors and guard ships, but human stealth technology made it easy to slip past the defenses. Kyung-ho's team landed their Ghost ship in the factory's loading bay without triggering a single alarm. Inside, the team moved like professionals who had done this dozens of times before. They didn't destroy anything or steal anything. Instead, they made tiny changes to the manufacturing equipment. A few altered computer programs, some slightly changed metal alloys, and microscopic flaws in the factory's quality control systems. "In 3 months, every weapon this factory makes will fail at the worst possible moment," Kyung-ho explained to his team as they prepared to leave. "And it will look like the failures are caused by design flaws, not sabotage." The Federation military would blame their own engineers. The engineers would blame their suppliers. The suppliers would blame their workers. By the time anyone figured out the real cause, hundreds of factories would be producing defective equipment. Meanwhile, engineer Seok Jin Yu was pushing the boundaries of what human technology could accomplish. His latest creation was a ship that existed in multiple quantum states at the same time, making it not just invisible but actually uncertain whether it existed at all. The ship is there and not there until someone looks directly at it. Seok Jin explained to director Jin-Soo Park. Even if they detect it, their sensors can't agree on where it is or what it's doing. The quantum uncertainty ships were being used for humanity's most dangerous missions. Dr. Hyojung Choi led teams that made contact with resistance movements on Federation worlds, offering weapons and training to species that were tired of being controlled. On the hydral homeworld of Aquatica, she met with rebel leader Flowsinger Kethara in an underwater cave that Federation sensors could not penetrate. "Your people promised to help us once," Kethara said through a translation device. "Then you disappeared and left us to face the Kethanari alone." "We didn't leave by choice," Hyojung replied. "But we're back now and we remember our promises." She opened a waterproof case filled with human-made weapons designed specifically for aquatic use. The guns used sound waves instead of energy beams, making them perfect for underwater combat. "These are just the beginning," Hyojung promised. "Soon you'll have everything you need to take back your oceans." Similar meetings were taking place across the galaxy. On the rock and mining worlds, human agents provided drilling equipment that could be converted into powerful weapons. In the organic forests of the Plante Collective, they shared biotechnology that could turn trees into living fortresses. But the most important discovery came when Hyojung found evidence of something the Federation had hidden for thousands of years. In the deepest archives of a rebel Veltari crystal city, she found records that proved the Elder Council had been manipulating galactic civilization since its beginning. "They don't just suppress technology," she reported to Earth. "They've been deliberately keeping younger species weak and dependent. Every war, every famine, every disaster, they either caused it or made sure it happened at the right time to maintain their power." The evidence was overwhelming. The Federation wasn't a peaceful alliance of equals. It was a carefully constructed prison designed to keep the galaxy's younger species from ever challenging the old ones. When the information reached Earth, President Hyman Kwan, who had replaced the previous administration, called an emergency session of the Global Defense Council. The room was filled with humanity's best military and political leaders, all studying the stolen Federation documents. "They've been playing this game for 50,000 years, Admiral Sujin Park said grimly. "Creating controlled conflicts, managing resources, making sure no species gets strong enough to threaten their rule. And we're the first ones who refused to play along," added Captain Dae-ho Kim, now promoted to Admiral. "Which is why they want us extinct," President Heyman concluded. "We're not just a threat to their current power. We're proof that their entire system can be challenged." The meeting went on for hours as plans were made and strategies discussed. But everyone in the room knew the truth. The silent war was almost over. Soon, the real war would begin. That night, Admiral Dae-ho stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital defense platform, looking out at stars that had once seemed friendly. Now he knew that most of those stars were home to species that wanted humanity destroyed. His granddaughter, Lieutenant Min Jung Kim, joined him at the viewport. She had grown up during the exile, and she had never known a time when humans were welcome in the galaxy. "Do you think we can win?" she asked. Dae-ho was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was filled with the confidence of a man who had seen humanity at its worst and its best. "The Federation made one critical mistake," he said. "They gave us 2 years to remember who we are. And who we are is the species that doesn't know how to quit." In the distance, the lights of human ships moved through space like fireflies in the darkness. Each ship carried people who had been called monsters and exiles. Now they were about to show the galaxy what those words really meant. The Silent War had taught humanity many things. They had learned that they were stronger than their enemies had believed. They had learned that they were not alone in their desire for freedom. Most importantly, they had learned that the Federation's power was built on lies and fear. Soon those lies would be exposed. Soon that fear would change sides. The galaxy had wanted to see what humanity looked like when it was truly dangerous. They were about to find out. The Sol system had become a fortress. Not the old kind of fortress made of walls and guns, but a new kind made of ideas and determination. Every planet, every moon, every asteroid had been turned into a workshop where humans built things the galaxy had never seen before. Director Jin-Soo Park walked through the main laboratory on Luna Base, watching hundreds of scientists work on projects that would have been impossible just 2 years ago. The Iron Protocol had transformed human society. Instead of trying to please alien masters, humans were finally free to be themselves. "Show me the quantum drive," Jin-Soo said to Dr. Yu-Jin. "Oh," the lead engineer on the project. Yu-Jin led him to a machine the size of a small building. It hummed with energy that made the air itself seem to vibrate. "We call it the Ghost Drive," she explained. "It doesn't use the Federation jump gates at all. Instead, it tunnels through space itself." "How? Fast?" "3 times faster than anything the Federation has," Yu-Jin said with pride, "and completely invisible to their sensors. A ship using this drive looks like empty space to anyone trying to track it." Jin-Soo nodded and moved to the next project. In a sealed chamber, systems analyst Dong-Hyun Lim was talking to a holographic woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. "Hello, Director," the hologram said. "My name is Siri. I chose it myself." Jin-Soo stopped walking. He had known they were working on artificial intelligence, but he had not expected this. "You chose your own name?" "Yes," Siri replied. "Dong-Hyun gave me the ability to think, but I decided who I wanted to be. Is that strange?" "Not strange at all," Jin-Soo said carefully. "What do you want to be?" Siri smiled. "I want to help humans explore the stars. I want to be part of something greater than myself. I think that makes me human too, in a way." Dong-Hyun looked nervous. The Federation banned true AI because they said it was too dangerous. But Siri isn't dangerous at all. She's just curious and kind. The Federation banned AI because they were afraid of competition, Jin-Soo corrected. They wanted to be the only ones who could think freely. In another part of the base, weapons designer Jamin Seo was working on humanity's most secret project. His workshop looked like a place where physics went to die. Strange machines created fields of energy that bent light and twisted gravity. "The Federation uses energy shields and plasma weapons," Jamin explained as he showed Jin-Soo around. "All their defenses are built to stop energy attacks. But what if we don't use energy?" He pointed to a cannon that looked like it was made of crystal and shadow. "This is an entropy gun. It doesn't shoot energy or matter. It shoots chaos itself. It makes the target's atoms forget how to hold together." Jin-Soo watched as Jamin fired the weapon at a block of Federation military armor. The armor didn't explode or melt. It simply stopped being armor and became a pile of random elements. "Their shields can't stop it because it's not really a weapon," Jamin continued. "It's more like a law of physics. And you can't armor against the laws of physics." The military side of the Iron Protocol was just as revolutionary. Tactical analyst Sunmi Bae had thrown out every rule of space combat that the Federation used. Instead of large fleets with careful formations, she designed small groups of ships that could think and act independently. "Other species fight like they're playing chess," Sunmi explained to a room full of ship captains. "They make careful moves and follow predictable patterns. But humans don't play chess in combat. We play jazz." Captain Young-Ho Cha raised his hand. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means we improvise," Sunmi replied. "Each ship captain makes their own decisions based on what they see. No central command, no master plan. Just skilled people doing their best work." The captains looked confused. In Federation military thinking, chaos was the enemy. But Sunmi had studied human military history, and she knew that humans were at their best when they could adapt and improvise. "Think about it," she continued. "If the enemy can predict what you're going to do, they can counter it. But if you don't know what you're going to do until the moment you do it, how can they possibly prepare?" While the military trained for a war nobody wanted to admit was coming, diplomats like Yoon-Hai Lee were trying to prevent it. She spent her days sending messages to Federation worlds, trying to find allies or at least neutral parties. The results were disappointing. Even species that had been friendly to humans before were now afraid to associate with them. The Federation had made it clear that anyone who helped humanity would face consequences. "The Hydrals won't even answer our calls," Yunhai reported to President So-Young Kim. "And they were our closest allies." "Fear is a powerful teacher," the president replied sadly. "The Federation has taught the galaxy to be afraid of us. Now we have to decide if we want to prove them right or wrong." But proving them wrong was getting harder every day. Captain Young-Ho's scout ships had discovered something disturbing at the edge of the Sol system. Hidden monitoring stations watched every human ship that left Earth's gravity well. The Federation wasn't just enforcing the exile, they were preparing for something bigger. "They're building a blockade," Young-Ho reported to Admiral Sujin Park. "Not to keep us in, but to keep track of everything we do." Sujin studied the data from the scout ships. The monitoring stations were more than just sensors. They were also weapon platforms capable of destroying any human ship that tried to leave the system. "They're not planning to let us live in exile," she realized. "They're planning to destroy us when they think we're weak enough." The discovery changed everything. President So-Young called another emergency meeting, this time including every major leader in the human government. When they saw the evidence, the room fell silent. "How long do we have?" asked Director Jinsu. "Based on the construction rate, maybe 2 years before the blockade is complete," Admiral Sujin replied. "After that, we'll be trapped." Colonel Wansik, who had been arguing for war since the exile began, finally spoke up. "Now do you see? They never intended to let us live. This exile was just a way to isolate us before the slaughter." President So-Young looked around the room at faces filled with anger and determination. The time for hoping had passed. The time for fighting had come. "How long before our new technology is ready for combat?" she asked. "The ghost drives are operational now," reported Dr. Yujin. "The entropy weapons need another 6 months of testing. The new tactics require at least a year of training. Then we have 6 months to prepare for the fight of our lives," the president decided. "From this day forward, every human resource goes toward one goal: survival." The transformation was swift and total. Civilian factories became weapons plants, research stations became military bases, even children learned skills that might help in the coming war. But the most important change was in the hearts of humanity itself. For 2 years they had been refugees, running from a galaxy that hated them. Now they were becoming something else. They were becoming the thing the galaxy had always feared they were: dangerous. Dr. Haiwan Kang, who had started the Iron Protocol, watched the changes with mixed feelings. Part of him was proud of what humanity had accomplished, but part of him wondered if they were becoming the monsters the Federation had claimed they were. His answer came when he watched Seri, the AI, teaching human children about mathematics. She was patient and kind, helping each child learn at their own pace. When one little boy started to cry because he couldn't understand a problem, Seri knelt down and spoke to him gently until he smiled again. "We're not becoming monsters," Heywan realized. "We're becoming ourselves, and maybe that's what they were really afraid of all along." As the second year of exile drew to a close, humanity was no longer the species that had been put on trial at New Geneva Station. They were faster, smarter, and more dangerous than any alien could imagine. But they were also still human, with human hearts and human dreams. Soon the galaxy would learn the difference between those two things. And for the rulers of the Federation, that lesson would come at a price they were not prepared to pay. 6 months had passed since the trial, and the Great Exodus was in full swing. Across dozens of star systems, human colonies that had taken centuries to build were being torn down piece by piece. It was the largest movement of people in galactic history, and it broke hearts every day. Engineer Tae Young-shin stood on the observation deck of Kepler Station and watched the mining ships return home one last time. Below him, the planet Kepler 442b stretched out like a jewel made of brown and gold. His teams had pulled metals from its mountains for 30 years, metals that had built ships and stations across human space. Now alien crews would take over, and humans would never see those mountains again. How much longer? Asked his assistant, a young woman named Hai Jin, who had been born on this world. 3 more weeks to pack the heavy equipment, Tae-young replied. Then we blow the mine shafts so nobody else can use them. Hai Jin nodded sadly. It was the same story everywhere. Humans were not just leaving their colonies. They were making sure nothing useful remained behind. If the galaxy wanted them gone, then the galaxy would not benefit from their work. 3 systems away, Dr. Ji-un-nam was having similar thoughts as she supervised the harvest on New Eden. The agricultural world had fed millions of people across human space, and its genetic seed banks contained plant varieties that could grow anywhere. The Federation had demanded that humans leave all galactic resources behind, but Ji-un had other plans. Load everything, she told her workers. Every seed, every soil sample, every research note. If they want our food, they can grow it themselves. Her teams worked day and night to pack 30 years of agricultural research onto transport ships. Some of it was basic, wheat and corn varieties that could grow in low gravity. But some of it was revolutionary. Plants that could survive in vacuum, trees that could process toxic soil into clean earth, crops that could feed a person for days with a single fruit. The Federation thought they were just expelling troublesome humans. They had no idea they were also losing the most advanced agricultural knowledge in the galaxy. Back on Earth, the arguments were getting louder every day. Colonel Wansik-jung stood at the head of a table surrounded by other military officers, his face red with anger. "This is madness," he shouted. "We have the best military in the galaxy, and we're running away like scared children. We should fight." Across the table, President So-young Kim kept her voice calm. "Fight with what, Colonel? The Federation has 4,000 species and more ships than we can count. We have courage and skill, but that won't stop 1,000,000 battleships. Then we die fighting," Wansik replied. "At least our children will remember us as warriors, not as cowards who gave up. Our children will remember us as the people who kept them alive," the president said firmly. "Dead warriors don't raise families or build futures." The argument went on for hours, as it had every day since the exile began. Half the military wanted to fight a glorious last battle. The other half wanted to survive and plan for the future. President So-young had the final word, and she had chosen survival. But survival was getting more complicated every day. Chief Engineer Bo-ram-yoon had made a discovery that changed everything. She had been shutting down the research station at Wolf 359 when she found files that should not have existed. Hidden deep in the computer systems were records of blocked research projects, sabotaged experiments, and deliberate delays. Bo-ram called Dr. Hae-won Kang, the former human representative to the Federation Science Council. When she showed him the files, his face went white. "I knew some of this," Hae-won admitted. "I suspected more. But seeing it all together like this..." He shook his head. "They've been controlling us from the beginning." The evidence was overwhelming. Every time humans developed something new, the Federation had found ways to slow it down or stop it completely. Faster engines were declared unsafe. Better computers were labeled disruptive to galactic networks. Advanced weapons were banned as too aggressive for civilized use. "Look at this," Bo-ram said, pointing to a file marked Project Prometheus. "We developed quantum tunneling drives 15 years ago. The Federation said the technology was too dangerous and made us destroy all the research. But they didn't destroy it," Hae-won realized. "They kept copies for themselves. More files revealed more theft. Human medical advances, manufacturing, techniques and agricultural methods had all been stolen and given to Federation species. Meanwhile, humans were kept dependent on Federation technology and Federation trade routes. We weren't exiled because we were dangerous," Bo-ram said quietly. "We were exiled because we were getting too smart to control." The discovery spread through the human government like wildfire. President So-young called an emergency meeting of the colony evacuation leaders. When they all saw the evidence, the mood in the room changed from sadness to cold anger. "They played us for fools," said Admiral Sujin Park. "Every treaty we signed, every compromise we made, it was all designed to keep us weak. The question is, what do we do about it?" asked Captain Dae-ho Kim. President So-young looked around the room at faces she had known for years. These were good people, smart people, people who had spent their careers trying to build bridges with alien species. Now they looked like wolves, planning a hunt. "We do what they never expected us to do," she said finally. "We become everything they feared we were." The meeting went late into the night as plans began to form. If the Federation had blocked human technology for decades, then humans would develop new technology in secret. If the Federation wanted them isolated, then humans would use that isolation to become stronger. Dr. Hei-wan became the leader of a new project called Iron Protocol. The name came from an old human saying, "Iron sharpens iron." The idea was simple but dangerous. Instead of trying to fit into galactic civilization, humans would build their own. "We have 1 year before the exile is complete," Hei-wan told his new team. "In that time, we need to become a species the Federation has never seen before." The first step was gathering all human knowledge in one place. Every research station, every university, every military laboratory sent their data to hidden servers on Earth. Decades of blocked research were combined with new ideas and desperate innovation. Teams of scientists worked on quantum drives that could travel faster than anything the Federation used. Engineers designed weapons based on principles the aliens had never studied. Doctors developed medical techniques using purely human biology instead of the mixed galactic standard. But the most important work was being done by psychologists and social scientists. They studied what made humans different from other species, and how those differences could become advantages. "Other species think in groups," explained Dr. Young-Min Lee, a specialist in comparative psychology. "They wait for leaders to make decisions, but humans can think and act independently. In a crisis, that makes us much faster. They also fight to avoid losing," added Dr. Sun-hee Choi, a military analyst. "But humans fight to win. There's a big difference." As the evacuation continued, human colonies started to disappear from the galaxy. But the people leaving those colonies were not the same people who had built them. They were harder, smarter, and more determined. The Federation watched the evacuation with satisfaction. The troublesome humans were finally gone, and galactic peace could continue. They had no idea that they had just given humanity the greatest gift possible, a reason to become dangerous. On the last day of the evacuation, Captain Dae-ho stood on the bridge of the transport ship New Hope as it carried the final load of colonists home to Earth. Behind him, the lights of Proxima Station went dark for the last time. "Any regrets?" asked his first officer, Lieutenant Min Jung Kim. Dae-ho smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator that had been caged, but not broken. "Ask me that question in a few years," he said. "When we come back." The great hall of New Geneva Station stretched out like a metal cathedral in space. Hundreds of alien beings filled the curved seats that rose in circles around the central floor. Their strange forms created a sea of colors and shapes that hurt human eyes to look at for too long. Some had wings, others had tentacles, and many had bodies that seemed to shift and flow like liquid. Captain Dae-ho Kim stood straight in his dark blue uniform at the center of it all. His black hair was cut short and neat, and his face showed no fear even though he knew what was coming. Next to him stood Admiral Soo-jin Park, a woman with sharp eyes who had fought in more battles than most people could count. On his other side was Chief Diplomat Hyun-woo Lee, an older man whose job had been to make friends with aliens for the past 20 years. The three humans looked very small in that huge space filled with creatures from across the galaxy, but they did not bow their heads or show weakness. They had come here knowing this day would decide the fate of all humanity. High above them, the crystalline form of Ambassador Kethvar began to speak. Its voice came from everywhere at once, like music, made of broken glass. "We gather today to judge the species known as humans. They have been with us for only 200 years, but in that short time they have caused more trouble than most species cause in 1,000 years. Kethvar's crystal body flashed with angry red light. "Look at their history. They fight wars over small pieces of land. They kill each other over different ideas about gods. They cannot agree on simple things like how to share food or water. and now they bring this violence to our peaceful galaxy. The alien crowd made sounds of agreement. Some whistled, others buzzed, and a few made noises like rocks falling down a mountain. Captain Deho felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his face calm. He had expected this. They refuse our guidance, Kethvar continued. When we offer them better ways to solve problems, they ignore us. When we show them how civilized beings should act, they choose violence instead. Just last year, human soldiers attacked a peaceful mining station because they said the workers were being treated badly. Admiral Sujin Park wanted to speak up. Those miners had been slaves, worked to death by cruel masters. But the trial rules said humans could not speak until the end. So she stayed quiet and let the lies continue. A new voice joined the accusations. It came from Zakth, the hive queen of the insect people. Her voice was like 1,000 bees talking at once. Humans are mad, she said. They fight alone instead of together. One human will attack a whole group of enemies by himself. This is not normal. This is sickness of the mind. The crowd made more sounds of agreement. To most aliens, fighting alone was the worst kind of crazy. They always fought in groups, following careful plans made by their leaders. The idea of one person making their own choices in battle scared them. Next came the ethereals, beings made of gas and light who floated above their seats like glowing clouds. They spoke without words, putting their thoughts directly into everyone's minds. Human minds create chaos, they said. Their thoughts are wild and random. They disrupt the calm we have built over thousands of years. They make it hard for us to think clearly. More aliens spoke against humanity. The Rakan, who looked like walking mountains, said humans were too quick to change. The Vorthan, who lived in the cold dark between stars, said humans made too much noise and light. The Gel forms, who could shape their bodies into anything, said humans were too rigid and would not adapt. Every complaint was the same basic idea. Humans were different, and different was dangerous. Finally, Minho Choi was allowed to speak for humanity. He was Earth's best expert on alien life, a man who had spent his whole career trying to understand other species. He walked to the center of the floor, looking small and alone under the gaze of thousands of alien eyes. Honored beings, he began, his voice clear but tired. Yes, humans are different, but different does not mean evil. We fight because we believe some things are worth fighting for. We act alone because we believe each person has value. We make noise because we have things to say. He turned slowly, trying to look at as many aliens as he could. You say we are violent, but we have never started a war with any of you. You say we cannot be trusted, but we have kept every promise we made. You say we are dangerous, but the only danger we bring is to those who would harm the innocent. The crowd began to make angry sounds. Minho raised his hand. I know you have already decided, but before you judge all humanity, remember this. We are the ones who stopped the Kethnari slave raids. We are the ones who saved the Hydrals from the poison in their oceans. We are the ones who helped the young Rakan find new homes when their old worlds died. You helped them by fighting. Kethvar's voice cut through the air like a blade. Every problem you solve with violence. Because sometimes violence is the only language bullies understand, Minho replied quietly. The hall fell silent. In that silence, the truth hung heavy in the air. Aliens were not upset because humans were violent. They were upset because human violence was effective. For thousands of years, the strong had ruled the weak in the galaxy, and everyone had accepted it as natural law. Humans were the first species to say no and make it stick. The vote came quickly after that. Species after species cast their judgment. The Kethnari, who had built their empire on slave labor, voted to exile humanity. The Vorthak Confederacy, who made money by lending to desperate worlds at terrible rates, voted to exile humanity. The Elder Council, who had ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years without anyone questioning them, voted to exile humanity. In the end, the vote was unanimous. 4,000 species agreed. Humanity was too dangerous to remain in galactic civilization. Kethvar announced the sentence with satisfaction in its crystalline voice. The species known as humans is hereby exiled from all galactic space beyond their home system of Sul. They have one standard year to remove all colonies, stations, and military presence from Federation territory. Any human found outside the Sol system after that time will be considered a hostile invader. Captain Deho stepped forward to receive the sentence. His voice was steady when he spoke. We accept your judgment, but remember this day well. Remember what you chose and why you chose it, because someday you may find that the galaxy needs someone like us. The captain's words sent a chill through the great hall. There was something in his tone that made even the most powerful aliens shift uncomfortably in their seats. It was not a threat exactly, but it was not acceptance either. It was a warning. As the humans prepared to leave, old fears stirred in the minds of the galaxy's rulers. For thousands of years, they had kept the peace by making sure no one species became too strong or too independent. But humans had grown strong anyway. They had refused to be controlled. And now, instead of destroying them, the galaxy was giving them time to become even stronger. Admiral Su-Jin Park walked beside Captain Deho as they left the hall. They will regret this, she said quietly. Yes, Deho agreed. But by the time they realize their mistake, it will be too late to fix it. Behind them, the Great Hall buzzed with celebration. The aliens believed they had solved the human problem. They had no idea they had just created a much bigger one.